Question 1. The investigation demonstrates that a significant number of applications for the upcoming academic year at Alzahra University appear to have discrepancies in submitted academic records, raising concerns about potential falsification. The admissions committee is under considerable pressure from university leadership to meet ambitious enrollment targets, and some members are suggesting a swift, lenient review to avoid delays and potential rejections that could impact these targets. What is the most ethically and regulatorily sound approach for the admissions committee to take in response to these demonstrated discrepancies? Option A. Conduct a thorough and impartial investigation into each flagged application, adhering strictly to Alzahra University's established admissions policies and ethical guidelines for handling academic integrity concerns. Regardless of enrollment pressures, Option B. Expedite the review process by focusing only on applications with minor discrepancies and approving those that meet the enrollment targets, while deferring or dismissing applications with more significant issues without full investigation. Option C. Prioritize meeting the enrollment targets by overlooking the flagged discrepancies and approving applications that are otherwise strong candidates, assuming the discrepancies are minor errors rather than intentional falsification. Option D. Immediately dismiss all applications with any noted discrepancies to avoid any potential compromise to academic standards, without providing applicants an opportunity to clarify or rectify their submissions. Correct answer is A. Conduct a thorough and impartial investigation into each flagged application, adhering strictly to Alzahra University's established admissions policies and ethical guidelines for handling academic integrity concerns, regardless of enrollment pressures. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate financial needs and the ethical obligation to maintain academic integrity and fairness in the admissions process. The pressure to meet enrollment targets can tempt individuals to overlook or downplay irregularities, but adherence to established ethical codes and university regulations is paramount. Careful judgment is required to balance institutional pressures with the fundamental principles of honesty and due process. The correct approach involves a thorough and impartial investigation of the alleged irregularities, adhering strictly to Alzahra University's established admissions policies and ethical guidelines for faculty and staff. This approach is right because it upholds the principles of fairness, transparency, and academic integrity, which are foundational to the university's reputation and the value of its degrees. Specifically, university regulations likely mandate a process for handling suspected academic misconduct, which would involve gathering evidence, providing the accused with an opportunity to respond, and making a decision based on established criteria, free from undue influence. This aligns with ethical principles of justice and due process. An incorrect approach that involves immediately dismissing the allegations without a proper investigation would be a failure to uphold the university's commitment to academic integrity. This bypasses the established procedures for addressing potential misconduct and could lead to admitting unqualified students or overlooking serious breaches of academic honesty, thereby undermining the university's standards. Another incorrect approach, such as selectively investigating only those aspects that support a predetermined outcome, represents a failure of impartiality and due process. This biased approach violates ethical principles of fairness and can lead to unjust decisions, damaging the credibility of the investigation and the university. A further incorrect approach, which involves pressuring the investigating committee to expedite their findings to meet enrollment targets, demonstrates a failure to prioritize ethical conduct and due process over institutional expediency. This can lead to rushed and potentially flawed conclusions, compromising the integrity of the admissions process and the university's reputation. Professionals in such situations should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes ethical considerations and adherence to established regulations. This involves 1. Identifying the ethical dilemma and the conflicting interests. 2. Consulting relevant university policies, codes of conduct, and ethical guidelines. 3. Gathering all relevant facts impartially. 4. Seeking advice from appropriate university authorities or ethics committees if the situation is complex. 5. Making a decision that is consistent with ethical principles and regulatory requirements, even if it is unpopular or challenging. 6. Documenting the decision-making process thoroughly. Question 2. The analysis reveals that a prospective student preparing for the Alzahra University entrance exam discovers a confidential document containing potential exam questions and topics that have been inadvertently leaked. The student is under immense pressure to secure admission and recognizes that reviewing this document could significantly improve their chances of success. What is the most ethically sound and professionally responsible course of action for the student to take? Option A. Share the leaked document with trusted friends who are also applying to Alzahra University to help them prepare as well. Option B. Ignore the leaked document and continue with their original study plan, hoping that the leaked information is not significant. Option C. Report the discovery of the leaked document to the Alzahra University Admissions Office or relevant examination authority immediately and refrain from using its contents for preparation. Option D. Discreetly study the leaked document to gain an advantage in the entrance exam, assuming that the university's security measures were insufficient. The correct answer is C. Report the discovery of the leaked document to the Alzahra University Admissions Office or relevant examination authority immediately and refrain from using its contents for preparation. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic success and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in a high-stakes entrance exam, coupled with the availability of potentially compromising information, creates an ethical tightrope for the student. Careful judgment is required to navigate this situation in a manner that upholds personal integrity and adheres to the established rules of Alzahra University. The correct approach involves prioritizing academic honesty and seeking clarification through official channels. This aligns with the fundamental ethical principles of integrity and fairness expected of all students, especially in the context of an entrance examination. Specifically, it adheres to the spirit and letter of any university regulations that prohibit the use of unauthorized materials or seeking unfair advantages. By choosing to report the situation and seek guidance, the student demonstrates a commitment to ethical conduct and respects the integrity of the examination process. This proactive stance prevents potential violations and ensures that the student's admission is based on merit. An incorrect approach of using the leaked information to prepare for the exam would constitute a serious breach of academic integrity. This directly violates university regulations prohibiting cheating and the use of unauthorized materials. Such an action undermines the fairness of the entrance exam for all other candidates and devalues the achievements of those who prepare honestly. Furthermore, it could lead to severe disciplinary actions, including disqualification from the entrance exam and potential expulsion from the university. Another incorrect approach of ignoring the leaked information and proceeding with preparation without reporting it is also professionally unsound. While it avoids direct cheating, it fails to address a known integrity issue within the examination process. This inaction can be interpreted as tacit acceptance of unethical practices and a disregard for the university's commitment to a fair and transparent admissions process. It misses an opportunity to uphold ethical standards and contribute to a more robust examination environment. Professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear assessment of the ethical implications, a thorough understanding of relevant university policies and codes of conduct, and a commitment to transparency. Students should be encouraged to err on the side of caution and seek guidance from university authorities when faced with ambiguous or ethically challenging circumstances. This involves asking clarifying questions, reporting potential misconduct, and prioritizing adherence to established rules over personal gain, obtained through questionable means. Question 3. Market research demonstrates a significant untapped segment of potential clients who express interest in the firm's services but have limited prior investment experience. The firm is under pressure to increase its client acquisition rate. A junior advisor suggests offering a simplified onboarding process for these individuals, which would involve a brief introductory meeting and a questionnaire, with the understanding that a full suitability assessment would be conducted only if they decide to proceed with a significant investment after an initial trial period of basic account access. What is the most ethically and regulatorily sound approach for the firm to take? Option A. Implement a comprehensive suitability assessment for all prospective clients, regardless of their initial investment size or stated experience, before granting any level of account access or offering advisory services. Option B. Rely on the client's self-declared understanding of investment risks and their stated financial capacity during the initial brief meeting, assuming they will seek further clarification if needed. Option C. Proceed with the simplified onboarding process, allowing clients to experience basic services during a trial period, and conduct a full suitability assessment only if they express intent to invest a substantial amount. Option D. Offer a risk-free, introductory seminar that highlights potential benefits without delving into individual suitability, encouraging attendees to sign up for the simplified onboarding process if interested. The correct answer is A. Implement a comprehensive suitability assessment for all prospective clients, regardless of their initial investment size or stated experience, before granting any level of account access or offering advisory services. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a firm's desire to expand its client base and the ethical obligation to ensure that all potential clients are suitable and understand the risks involved. The pressure to meet growth targets can create an environment where shortcuts are considered, potentially compromising client welfare and regulatory compliance. Careful judgment is required to balance business objectives with fiduciary duties. The correct approach involves a thorough and documented assessment of each potential client's financial situation, investment objectives, and risk tolerance. This aligns with the fundamental ethical principle of acting in the client's best interest and adheres to regulatory requirements that mandate suitability assessments before offering any financial products or services. Specifically, under the framework governing financial advisory services, professionals are obligated to gather sufficient information to make informed recommendations. This proactive and diligent approach ensures that clients are not exposed to investments they cannot afford or do not understand, thereby protecting both the client and the firm from potential harm and regulatory sanctions. An incorrect approach that involves offering a trial period without a full suitability assessment is ethically flawed because it bypasses the crucial step of understanding the client's profile. This could lead to unsuitable recommendations being made during the trial, exposing the client to undue risk and violating the duty of care. Furthermore, it fails to meet the regulatory expectation of a comprehensive assessment prior to engagement. Another incorrect approach, which is to rely solely on the client's self-declaration of understanding and risk appetite without independent verification or further probing, is also professionally unacceptable. While client input is vital, professionals have a responsibility to exercise their judgment and ensure that the client's self-assessment is realistic and aligned with their actual circumstances. Over-reliance on self-declaration can lead to a misjudgment of risk and suitability, potentially resulting in client losses and regulatory breaches. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Identify the ethical and regulatory obligations relevant to the situation. 2. Gather all necessary information about the client and the proposed services. 3. Assess the client's suitability based on the gathered information and regulatory criteria. 4. Clearly communicate risks and benefits to the client, ensuring their understanding. 5. Document all assessments, communications, and decisions. 6. If any doubt or conflict arises, seek guidance from supervisors or compliance departments. Question 4. To address the challenge of a student appearing distressed and subtly requesting hints on specific questions during the Alzahra University entrance exam, what is the most ethically and regulatorily sound course of action for the invigilator? Option A. Politely inform the student that no assistance can be provided with exam questions and discreetly monitor their progress to ensure adherence to exam rules. Option B. Provide the student with subtle hints or direct answers to the questions they seem to be struggling with to help them pass the exam. Option C. Offer the student general advice on time management and exam-taking strategies, hoping it alleviates their distress and improves their performance. Option D. Ignore the student's distress and subtle requests, assuming they will either figure it out or fail without intervention. The correct answer is A. Politely inform the student that no assistance can be provided with exam questions, and discreetly monitor their progress to ensure adherence to exam rules. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's perceived need for assistance and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The pressure to perform well in a high-stakes entrance exam can lead students to seek unethical advantages, while university staff are bound by a duty to uphold the integrity of the examination process. Careful judgment is required to balance support for students with the imperative to prevent academic misconduct. The correct approach involves prioritizing the integrity of the examination process and adhering strictly to the Alzahra University entrance exam regulations. This means recognizing that providing unauthorized assistance, even with good intentions, constitutes academic dishonesty. The university's regulatory framework, which governs the entrance exam, likely emphasizes fairness, equal opportunity, and the prohibition of any form of cheating or collusion. Upholding these principles ensures that all candidates are assessed on their own merit, maintaining the credibility of the university's admissions. An incorrect approach would be to provide the student with direct answers or hints during the exam. This directly violates the core principles of academic integrity and the specific rules of the Alzahra University entrance exam, which are designed to ensure a fair and unbiased assessment. Such an action would undermine the validity of the examination results and could lead to disciplinary action against both the student and the invigilator. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the student's request and take no action. While this might seem like avoiding direct involvement in misconduct, it fails to uphold the invigilator's responsibility to maintain a secure examination environment. The university expects its staff to be vigilant and to address any potential breaches of conduct proactively. Failing to intervene could be interpreted as tacit approval or negligence. A third incorrect approach would be to offer general advice on exam-taking strategies that could be construed as indirectly assisting the student with specific questions. While general advice is permissible, crossing the line into providing assistance that directly aids in answering exam questions is a violation. The distinction lies in whether the advice helps the student perform better in general or helps them solve the specific problems presented in the exam. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should begin with a clear understanding of the Alzahra University entrance, exams regulations, and ethical guidelines. When faced with a student's request that raises concerns, the professional should 1. Assess the request against the established rules and ethical principles. 2. If the request appears to violate regulations, politely but firmly decline, explaining that providing such assistance is not permitted. 3. If the situation involves potential misconduct, follow the university's established procedures for reporting or addressing such issues, which may involve informing a supervisor or the examination board. 4. Maintain a professional demeanor throughout the interaction, ensuring fairness and impartiality. Question 5. The review process indicates that a recent report on student success rates for the upcoming entrance exam preparation materials has been drafted. While the report highlights a significant increase in the number of students who passed a preliminary assessment after using the materials, it omits data showing that the assessment itself was made considerably easier this year, and that a substantial portion of students who passed still scored below the university's typical admission threshold. The communications team is under pressure to release this report to attract more applicants. Which of the following approaches best upholds the ethical standards expected in university communications? Option A. Edit the preliminary assessment results to show a higher average score, thereby making the success of the preparation materials appear more significant. Option B. Release the report as drafted, focusing on the positive headline of increased pass rates to generate interest. Option C. Revise the report to include the context of the easier assessment and the actual performance levels of students, even if it makes the results less impressive. Option D. Delay the release of the report indefinitely until a more favorable set of statistics can be generated. The correct answer is B. Release the report as drafted, focusing on the positive headline of increased pass rates to generate interest. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the university's immediate need for positive publicity and the ethical obligation to present accurate and unvarnished information. The pressure to highlight successes, even if they are marginal or potentially misleading, can create a temptation to compromise journalistic integrity. Careful judgment is required to balance the university's interests with the public's right to truthful reporting. The correct approach involves a commitment to factual reporting, even when it might be less flattering. This means verifying all claims, providing context, and avoiding exaggeration or omission of relevant details. This aligns with the fundamental ethical principles of accuracy, fairness, and transparency expected of university communications, which are implicitly governed by standards of academic integrity and public trust. The university's entrance exam context implies a need for honesty and integrity in all its communications, including those aimed at prospective students. An incorrect approach that prioritizes sensationalism over accuracy would fail to uphold the university's commitment to truth. This could involve selectively highlighting positive statistics while downplaying or ignoring negative ones, leading to a misleading impression of the university's performance. Such an approach violates the ethical duty of candor and could damage the university's reputation in the long run by eroding trust. Another incorrect approach that involves fabricating or exaggerating achievements would be a direct breach of ethical conduct and potentially academic fraud. This would not only misinform prospective students, but also undermine the credibility of the university's admissions process and its overall academic standing. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the ethical guidelines governing university communications. This includes prioritizing accuracy, fairness, and transparency. When faced with conflicting pressures, professionals should consult relevant university policies, ethical codes, and if necessary, seek guidance from supervisors or ethics committees. The ultimate goal should be to serve the public interest by providing truthful and reliable information, thereby upholding the integrity of the institution. Question 6. What factors determine the most appropriate course of action when a prospective student is observed engaging in behavior that suggests academic dishonesty during the Alzahra University entrance exam? Option A. The potential impact of reporting on the prospective student's future academic prospects and the observer's own time constraints. Option B. The established procedures and ethical guidelines of Alzahra University regarding academic integrity and misconduct reporting. Option C. The likelihood of the prospective student being caught by other invigilators and the general atmosphere of the examination hall. Option D. The observer's personal relationship with the prospective student and the perceived severity of the infraction. The correct answer is D. The observer's personal relationship with the prospective student and the perceived severity of the infraction. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a student's desire for academic success and the university's commitment to academic integrity. The pressure to perform well in entrance exams can lead some students to consider unethical shortcuts. Navigating this requires a strong ethical compass and adherence to the specific regulations governing the Alzahra University entrance exam. The correct approach involves prioritizing academic integrity and the fairness of the examination process above all else. This means reporting any observed or suspected instances of academic dishonesty to the appropriate university authorities. This aligns with the fundamental ethical principles of honesty, fairness, and responsibility, which are implicitly or explicitly embedded in the regulatory framework of any reputable educational institution, including Alzahra University. The university's regulations are designed to ensure a level playing field for all applicants and to uphold the value of its degrees. An incorrect approach would be to ignore the observed behavior. This failure to act constitutes complicity in academic dishonesty and undermines the integrity of the exam. It violates the ethical duty of a responsible member of the academic community to uphold its standards. Another incorrect approach would be to confront the student directly and attempt to resolve the issue without involving university officials. This bypasses the established procedures for handling academic misconduct, potentially leading to an unfair resolution, or even escalating the situation without proper authority or guidance. It also places the observer in a position of judgment and enforcement that is not their designated role. A third incorrect approach would be to report the incident anonymously to a third party not affiliated with the university. This fails to provide the necessary information to the correct authorities for investigation and resolution, rendering the report ineffective and still failing to uphold the university's academic integrity standards. Professionals in this situation should employ a decision-making framework that begins with identifying the ethical issue. Next, they should consult the relevant regulations and ethical guidelines of Alzahra University. Then, they should consider the potential consequences of each course of action. Finally, they should choose the action that best upholds academic integrity and adheres to the established procedures, which in this case involves reporting the observed misconduct to the university administration. Question 7. The monitoring system demonstrates that a student who appears to be struggling significantly with a particular section of the Alzahra University entrance exam is repeatedly looking towards another candidate's paper. As an invigilator, what is the most ethically and regulatorily sound course of action? Option A. Ignore the behavior, assuming the student is merely fatigued or experiencing anxiety, and focus on other areas of the examination hall. Option B. Directly confront the student and the other candidate, loudly questioning their actions and demanding an explanation in front of other students. Option C. Discreetly approach the student and offer a subtle hint or rephrase a question to guide them towards the correct answer, while ensuring no other invigilator notices. Option D. Immediately and discreetly inform the chief invigilator or designated examination authority about the observed behavior, without directly confronting the student or the other candidate. The correct answer is C. Discreetly approach the student and offer a subtle hint or rephrase a question to guide them towards the correct answer, while ensuring no other invigilator notices. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the conflict between a student's perceived academic struggle and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The pressure to assist a struggling student, especially if there's a personal connection or a desire to see them succeed, can lead to ethically compromised decisions. The core of the challenge lies in balancing empathy and support with the obligation to uphold the rules and standards of the Alzahra University entrance exam. The correct approach involves a commitment to fairness and adherence to the established examination protocols. This means recognizing the limitations of one's role and refraining from actions that could be construed as providing an unfair advantage or compromising the integrity of the examination process. Specifically, it requires reporting any observed irregularities or potential breaches of conduct to the appropriate examination authorities without attempting to intervene directly or offer unauthorized assistance. This aligns with the ethical principles of honesty, integrity, and impartiality expected of all individuals involved in the administration of the Alzahra University entrance exam. The regulatory framework for such exams typically emphasizes the sanctity of the assessment process and mandates reporting mechanisms for any suspected misconduct. An incorrect approach would be to directly provide the student with answers or hints. This is a direct violation of the examination's integrity and constitutes academic dishonesty. Ethically, it breaches the principles of fairness and equal opportunity for all candidates. It also undermines the validity of the entire examination process, as it suggests that success can be achieved through illicit means rather than genuine knowledge and effort. Furthermore, it could lead to severe penalties for both the student and the individual providing the assistance, including disqualification from the exam and potential disciplinary action by the university. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the observed behavior, assuming it is not significant or that it is the student's responsibility to manage their own performance. This inaction, while not an active breach, fails to uphold the duty of care and the responsibility to ensure a fair examination environment. It implicitly condones potential misconduct and can contribute to a perception that rules are not strictly enforced, thereby eroding the credibility of the examination. A third incorrect approach would be to subtly guide the student towards correct answers without explicitly providing them, perhaps through leading questions or rephrasing. While seemingly less direct, this still constitutes an attempt to influence the outcome of the examination in an unauthorized manner. It blurs the line between legitimate support and unfair assistance, and can be interpreted as a circumvention of the examination rules, thereby compromising the integrity of the assessment. The professional decision-making process in such situation should involve a clear understanding of one's responsibilities and the established rules of the Alzahra University entrance exam. When faced with a potential ethical dilemma, professionals should first identify the core ethical principles at stake: fairness, integrity, honesty. They should then consult the relevant regulations and guidelines of the exam. If unsure, seeking guidance from a supervisor or designated authority is crucial. The decision should prioritize the upholding of the examination's integrity and fairness for all candidates, even if it means not providing immediate, direct assistance to a struggling individual. Question 8. The monitoring system demonstrates a student repeatedly accessing external websites unrelated to the exam content during a supervised online assessment, and then appearing to incorporate information from these sites into their answers. Option A. Ignore the activity, assuming the student is simply researching for a different purpose or that the system is malfunctioning. Option B. report the observed activity to the university's Academic Integrity Office, detailing the specific observations from the monitoring system. Option C, directly approach the student during the exam and offer to provide them with the correct information to ensure they pass. Option D, discreetly inform other students in the exam about the student's behavior to gauge their reactions. The correct answer is B. Report the observed activity to the university's Academic Integrity Office, detailing the specific observations from the monitoring system. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the conflict between a student's perceived academic struggle and the potential for academic misconduct. The pressure to achieve good results, coupled with the availability of unauthorized assistance, creates an ethical tightrope. Careful judgment is required to uphold academic integrity, while also considering the student's well-being and the university's commitment to fair assessment. The correct approach involves reporting the observed behavior through the established university channels for academic integrity concerns. This upholds the principles of fairness and honesty central to academic institutions. Specifically, it aligns with the Alzahra University's academic regulations, which mandate reporting suspected academic misconduct to prevent unfair advantages and maintain the credibility of its degrees. This approach ensures that the university's disciplinary procedures, designed to investigate such matters impartially, are initiated. An incorrect approach of ignoring the behavior fails to uphold the university's commitment to academic integrity and allows potential misconduct to go unchecked, thereby undermining the fairness of the assessment process for all students. It also neglects the professional responsibility to report observed violations of academic policy. Another incorrect approach of directly confronting the student and offering to help them cheat is a severe ethical and regulatory breach. This not only facilitates academic dishonesty, but also compromises the integrity of the examiner and the university. It directly violates the principles of honesty and fairness and would likely lead to severe disciplinary action against the examiner. A further incorrect approach of reporting the student to the university without concrete evidence, based solely on suspicion, could be problematic if not handled carefully. While reporting is necessary, the initial report should focus on the observed behavior and the reasons for suspicion, allowing the university's formal process to gather evidence rather than making unsubstantiated accusations. However, in this scenario, the monitoring system provides a basis for suspicion that warrants investigation. The key is to report the observation and let the established procedures take their course. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Identifying the potential ethical or regulatory conflict. 2. Recalling relevant university policies and codes of conduct. 3. Consulting with a supervisor or designated ethics officer if unsure. 4. Taking appropriate action based on established procedures, prioritizing integrity and fairness. Question 9. The monitoring system demonstrates a pattern of unusual activity on a specific student's exam session, suggesting potential unauthorized assistance. As a university administrator responsible for exam integrity, you observe this anomaly shortly before the final submission deadline for scholarship applications, which this student is a strong contender for. What is the most ethically and regulatorily sound course of action? Option A. Ignore the anomaly to avoid jeopardizing the student's scholarship application and the integrity of the exam process. Option B. Attempt to independently investigate the anomaly by reviewing the student's exam data and making a judgment call on whether to report it. Option C. Immediately report the anomaly to the university's Academic Integrity Committee and the IT Security Department for investigation without directly contacting the student. Option D. Discreetly inform the student about the observed anomaly and ask them to explain their exam session. The correct answer is C. Immediately report the anomaly to the university's Academic Integrity Committee and the IT Security Department for investigation without directly contacting the student. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the conflict between a student's perceived academic need and the university's established ethical and regulatory guidelines regarding academic integrity and data privacy. The pressure to achieve a high score, coupled with the potential for a scholarship, can lead to ethically compromised decision-making. Careful judgment is required to balance the student's aspirations with the university's commitment to fairness and the protection of its systems and data. The correct approach involves reporting the observed anomaly through the designated university channels without directly confronting the student or attempting to resolve the issue independently. This upholds the principles of academic integrity by ensuring that any potential misconduct is investigated by the appropriate authorities. It also adheres to data privacy regulations by preventing unauthorized access or disclosure of student performance data. The university's internal policies and procedures are designed to handle such situations impartially and effectively, ensuring due process for all involved. An incorrect approach would be to ignore the anomaly, thereby failing to uphold the university's commitment to academic integrity and potentially allowing unfair advantages. This inaction could undermine the credibility of the examination process. Another incorrect approach would be to directly confront the student and demand an explanation or confession. This bypasses established university procedures, potentially violates the student's rights, and could lead to an escalation of the situation without proper investigation or evidence. Furthermore, attempting to fix the anomaly or alter records would constitute a severe breach of ethical conduct and university policy, potentially leading to disciplinary action for the staff member. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to established policies and ethical codes. This involves recognizing potential ethical conflicts, consulting relevant university regulations and guidelines, and reporting concerns through the appropriate channels. If unsure, seeking guidance from supervisors or ethics committees is crucial. The focus should always be on maintaining the integrity of the academic process and protecting the rights and privacy of all individuals involved. Question 10. System analysis indicates that during the Alzahra University entrance exam, a candidate, visibly distressed, discreetly signals to you, a proctor, indicating they are struggling with a particular question and appear to be seeking assistance. You are aware of the university's strict policies against any form of academic dishonesty during examinations. Which of the following actions best upholds the integrity of the examination process and adheres to ethical professional conduct? Option A. Ignore the candidate's signal and continue to monitor the room, assuming they will either figure out the question or leave it unanswered. Option B. Immediately report the candidate to the examination committee for attempting to solicit unauthorized assistance without further interaction. Option C. Discreetly remind the candidate of the examination rules regarding unauthorized assistance and the importance of completing the exam independently, then continue your proctoring duties. Option D. Provide the candidate with a subtle hint or clarification that would help them answer the question, believing it is more important to alleviate their distress. The correct answer is C. Discreetly remind the candidate of the examination rules regarding unauthorized assistance and the importance of completing the exam independently, then continue your proctoring duties. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge rooted in the ethical obligation of academic integrity and the university's commitment to fair assessment. The core dilemma lies in balancing the need to support a struggling student with the imperative to uphold the integrity of the entrance examination process, ensuring that all candidates are evaluated on their own merit. The university's regulatory framework, as implied by the context of an entrance exam, would prioritize fairness, transparency, and the prevention of academic misconduct. The correct approach involves a commitment to the established examination procedures and a refusal to compromise the integrity of the assessment. This aligns with the ethical principles of honesty and fairness, which are fundamental to any educational institution. Specifically, it upholds the university's regulations against providing unauthorized assistance during an examination, thereby ensuring that the results accurately reflect each candidate's knowledge and abilities. This approach prioritizes the long-term credibility of the Alzahra University entrance exam and the value of its qualifications. An incorrect approach would be to provide the student with direct answers or hints during the exam. This action directly violates the principles of academic integrity and the specific rules governing examinations, which prohibit any form of cheating or unauthorized assistance. Such a breach undermines the fairness of the assessment for all other candidates and devalues the achievements of those who succeed through their own efforts. Ethically, it constitutes a betrayal of trust and a failure to act with integrity. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the student's request and proceed as if nothing happened, without any form of intervention or guidance. While this might seem like a neutral stance, it fails to address the ethical implications of witnessing potential academic misconduct. It also misses an opportunity to guide the student towards appropriate channels for academic support, such as pre-exam preparation resources or post-exam feedback mechanisms, which are often part of a university's broader student welfare policies. This passive approach can inadvertently enable future misconduct and does not uphold the university's responsibility to foster an environment of academic honesty. A further incorrect approach would be to report the student to the examination authorities without first attempting to understand the situation or offering a brief, permissible reminder of the rules. While reporting misconduct is sometimes necessary, an immediate escalation without any attempt at de-escalation or clarification can be perceived as overly punitive and may not align with a university's approach to fostering a supportive learning environment, provided that support does not compromise exam integrity. The professional decision-making process should involve a clear understanding of the university's examination regulations, a commitment to ethical conduct, and a measured response that prioritizes fairness and integrity while considering appropriate avenues for student support within the established boundaries. Question 11. The monitoring system demonstrates a student exhibiting signs of distress and potentially seeking unauthorized assistance during a critical Alzahra University entrance examination. As an invigilator, you observe this behavior. What is the most appropriate course of action? Option A. Ignore the behavior, assuming it is a temporary issue, and continue with standard invigilation duties. Option B. Discuss your observations with other students present in the examination hall to gauge their reactions and seek their opinions. Option C. Discreetly report the observed behavior and your concerns to the chief invigilator or examination administrator immediately, without direct intervention with the student during the exam. Option D. Approach the student directly and offer subtle hints or guidance to help them complete the examination successfully. The correct answer is C. Discreetly report the observed behavior and your concerns to the chief invigilator or examination administrator immediately, without direct intervention with the student during the exam. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the conflict between a student's perceived academic struggle and the university's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment. The pressure to achieve a certain outcome, even if well-intentioned, can lead to actions that compromise ethical standards. Careful judgment is required to balance support for students with the need to uphold the integrity of the examination process. The correct approach involves escalating the concern through established university channels without directly intervening in the examination process or revealing confidential information. This upholds the principle of fairness to all students by ensuring the examination is conducted impartially. It also adheres to the university's ethical guidelines regarding academic integrity and the appropriate procedures for addressing suspected academic misconduct. By reporting the observation to the designated authority, the individual acts responsibly, allowing the university to investigate and act according to its policies, thus protecting the validity of the exam and the reputation of the institution. An incorrect approach that involves directly confronting the student during the exam or attempting to provide assistance would violate the strict rules of examination conduct. This could be construed as aiding and abetting academic dishonesty, undermining the fairness of the assessment for all other students, and potentially leading to disciplinary action against both the student and the invigilator. Another incorrect approach, such as ignoring the observation and taking no action, fails to uphold the duty of care and the responsibility to maintain academic integrity. This inaction could allow potential academic misconduct to go unchecked, thereby compromising the fairness of the examination and the university's standards. A further incorrect approach, such as discussing the observation with other students or staff not involved in the official reporting process, would breach confidentiality and could lead to gossip or speculation, creating an unprofessional and potentially damaging environment. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes adherence to university regulations and ethical codes. This involves identifying the core ethical principles at play: fairness, integrity, confidentiality, recognizing potential conflicts, and then systematically evaluating actions against established procedures and policies. When faced with a situation like this, the professional should ask, what is the most responsible and ethical way to address this observation within the university's established framework? This often leads to consulting policy documents or seeking guidance from supervisors or designated ethics officers. Question 12. Market research demonstrates that prospective students are increasingly seeking comprehensive and realistic insights into university life and academic rigor, As part of the Alzahra University Entrance Exam Information Dissemination Team, you are tasked with developing promotional materials. Which of the following approaches best aligns with ethical standards and the goal of attracting suitable candidates? Option A. Emphasize the university's state-of-the-art facilities, high graduate employment rates, and vibrant campus life, while subtly downplaying the demanding academic workload and competitive nature of certain programs. Option B. Focus exclusively on the university's historical achievements and prestigious alumni network, without detailing current academic programs or student experiences. Option C. Present a balanced overview that highlights the university's academic strengths, research opportunities, and student support services, while also acknowledging the rigorous academic expectations and the challenges students may face in specific disciplines, offering resources for support. Option D. Highlight the unique social aspects and extracurricular activities as the primary draw, suggesting that academic performance is secondary to overall student experience. The correct answer is A. Emphasize the university's state-of-the-art facilities, high graduate employment rates, and vibrant campus life, while subtly downplaying the demanding academic workload and competitive nature of certain programs. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a university's desire to attract students and the ethical obligation to provide accurate and unbiased information. The entrance exam context amplifies this challenge, as prospective students rely heavily on the information provided to make significant life decisions. Careful judgment is required to balance promotional efforts with transparency and integrity. The correct approach involves a balanced presentation of information, acknowledging both the strengths and potential challenges of the university. This aligns with ethical principles of honesty and fairness, ensuring that prospective students are equipped with a realistic understanding of the academic environment. Specifically, within the context of university admissions and promotional materials, adherence to principles of truthful representation and avoidance of misleading statements is paramount. This is often implicitly or explicitly governed by university codes of conduct and broader educational regulatory guidelines that emphasize integrity in recruitment. An approach that focuses solely on highlighting positive aspects while omitting any potential drawbacks represents a failure in truthful representation. This can mislead prospective students, leading to dissatisfaction and potentially impacting their academic success if they are unprepared for certain challenges. Ethically, this constitutes a breach of trust. An approach that exaggerates the university's achievements or facilities, even if not outright false, can be considered misleading. This creates unrealistic expectations and fails to provide a balanced perspective, violating the principle of providing accurate information. An approach that focuses on negative aspects to an extent that deters all but the most resilient applicants, without providing context or solution, could be seen as overly pessimistic and potentially damaging to the university's reputation, without serving the best interests of genuinely suitable candidates. While transparency is important, a complete lack of positive framing can be counterproductive and unhelpful. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough assessment of the information to be conveyed, ensuring it is accurate, balanced, and not misleading. This includes considering the perspective of the target audience, prospective students, and their need for comprehensive information. Professionals should consult relevant university policies on admissions and marketing, as well as any applicable educational regulatory guidelines, to ensure compliance with ethical and legal standards. A framework of responsible communication should be adopted, prioritizing transparency, accuracy, and the well-being of prospective students. Question 13. Stakeholder feedback indicates a perception among a segment of students that the current process for submitting and grading certain types of assignments lacks clarity and consistency, leading to anxiety about fairness. As a member of the university's Academic Affairs Committee, what is the most appropriate initial step to address this feedback? Option A. Publicly reassure students that the current processes are robust and have always been fair, advising them to focus on their studies. Option B. Initiate a formal review of the assignment submission and grading policies, involving relevant faculty and student representatives, to identify areas for improvement and ensure adherence to university academic standards. Option C. Immediately revise the assignment submission and grading guidelines without further consultation to preempt further student concerns. Option D. Investigate which specific students provided this feedback and address their individual concerns directly. correct answer is B. Initiate a formal review of the assignment submission and grading policies involving relevant faculty and student representatives to identify areas for improvement and ensure adherence to university academic standards. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's commitment to academic integrity with the need to address legitimate student concerns raised through feedback. The core tension lies in how to respond to feedback that might be perceived as critical of existing academic processes without undermining the authority or fairness of those processes. A careful judgment is required to ensure that the response is both constructive and compliant with Alzahra University's established academic regulations and ethical guidelines for student affairs. Correct approach involves a systematic and transparent review process that acknowledges the feedback, investigates the concerns raised, and communicates findings and any resulting actions to the stakeholders. This aligns with principles of good governance and continuous improvement, which are implicitly expected in any educational institution. Specifically, it respects the university's internal regulations regarding student grievances and academic quality assurance, ensuring that feedback is not dismissed, but rather used as a catalyst for potential enhancement. This approach demonstrates a commitment to student welfare and academic standards, fostering trust and a positive learning environment. An incorrect approach that dismisses the feedback outright fails to acknowledge the university's responsibility to listen to its students and address their concerns. This could violate implicit ethical obligations to provide a supportive academic environment and potentially contravene university policies on student feedback mechanisms. Another incorrect approach that immediately implements changes without proper investigation risks making arbitrary decisions that may not be well-founded, could disrupt existing effective processes, and might not address the root cause of the feedback. This could lead to further dissatisfaction and questions about the university's decision-making process. Finally, an approach that focuses solely on punitive measures against students who provided the feedback, rather than addressing the substance of their concerns, is ethically unsound and counterproductive, undermining the very purpose of feedback and creating a climate of fear. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes a structured, evidence-based, and stakeholder-inclusive response. This involves 1. Acknowledging and documenting all feedback received. 2. Categorizing feedback to identify recurring themes or significant issues. 3. Initiating an internal review process, potentially involving relevant academic departments or administrative units, to assess the validity and scope of the concerns. 4. Developing a plan of action based on the review findings, which may include improvements to existing processes, additional training, or clarification of policies. 5. Communicating the outcomes of the review and any implemented actions back to the stakeholders, demonstrating responsiveness and commitment to improvement. This process ensures that decisions are informed, fair, and aligned with the university's mission and regulatory framework. Question 14. The performance metrics show a slight decline in the average score of admitted students over the past 2 admission cycles for the Alzahra University entrance exam. The admissions committee is considering several strategies to address this, but it is crucial to ensure any proposed action strictly adheres to the Alzahra University entrance exam's established regulatory framework and ethical guidelines. Which of the following approaches best reflects a responsible and compliant course of action? Option A. Initiate a comprehensive review of the exam's content validity and psychometric properties, consulting the official Alzahra University entrance exam regulations and relevant academic literature to identify potential areas for improvement in assessment design and scoring. Option B. Suggest lowering the minimum score threshold for admission to increase the pool of eligible candidates, thereby potentially increasing the average score of those admitted if a higher proportion of stronger candidates are included. Option C. Implement a new preparatory course for prospective students, funded by a mandatory fee, designed to cover topics that appear to be less represented in the current admitted students' performance data, without prior consultation of the exam's regulatory body. Option D. Propose revising the weighting of certain sections of the exam to emphasize areas where current admitted students show stronger performance, based on the assumption that this will naturally elevate the average score. The correct answer is D. Propose revising the weighting of certain sections of the exam to emphasize areas where current admitted students show stronger performance, based on the assumption that this will naturally elevate the average score. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's strategic goals with the ethical obligations towards its stakeholders, particularly students and faculty, within the specific regulatory framework of the Alzahra University entrance exam. The pressure to demonstrate improvement in performance metrics can lead to decisions that might inadvertently compromise the integrity of the admissions process or the educational experience. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any proposed changes are not only effective, but also compliant with the exam's governing regulations and ethical principles. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the performance metrics in conjunction with the existing regulatory framework and ethical guidelines for the Alzahra University entrance exam. This approach prioritizes understanding the root causes of any perceived underperformance and identifying solutions that align with the exam's objectives, such as ensuring fair access to education and admitting qualified candidates. Specifically, it requires consulting the official Alzahra University entrance exam regulations and any associated ethical codes of conduct to determine permissible actions. The justification for this approach lies in its adherence to the principle of regulatory compliance and ethical responsibility. By grounding decisions in the established rules and ethical standards, the university upholds its commitment to a fair and transparent admissions process, thereby maintaining trust with students, faculty, and the wider academic community. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on immediate metric improvement, without considering the regulatory framework, would be professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a disregard for the established rules governing the entrance exam, potentially leading to discriminatory practices or a compromised assessment of candidate suitability. Another incorrect approach that involves implementing changes based on anecdotal evidence or external best practices without validating them against the specific Alzahra University entrance exam regulations is also flawed. This approach risks introducing practices that are not permitted or are counterproductive within the unique context of the university's admissions process, violating the principle of adherence to specific jurisdictional requirements. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic evaluation of performance data, a comprehensive understanding of the relevant regulatory framework, in this case, the Alzahra University entrance exam regulations, and a commitment to ethical conduct. Professionals should first identify the problem or opportunity presented by the performance metrics. Then, they must consult the specific rules and guidelines governing the situation. Potential solutions should be brainstormed, and each solution must be rigorously assessed for its compliance with regulations and ethical implications. Finally, the chosen course of action should be implemented with a plan for monitoring its effectiveness and adherence to all governing principles. Question 15. The audit findings indicate potential irregularities in the admissions process, suggesting that certain applicants may have received preferential treatment that deviates from established university criteria, potentially impacting enrollment figures and tuition revenue. The university's administration is under pressure to address these findings swiftly to maintain financial stability and public confidence. Which of the following approaches best balances the need for financial prudence with the imperative of upholding academic integrity and ethical governance? Option A. Publicly acknowledge the audit findings and emphasize the university's commitment to financial health, while privately instructing relevant departments to review internal procedures without a formal, independent investigation to avoid negative publicity. Option B. Initiate an immediate, independent review of the admissions process and the specific cases highlighted by the audit, engaging external expertise if necessary, to determine the extent of any deviations and recommend corrective actions, while temporarily suspending any admissions decisions directly implicated until the review is complete. Option C. Immediately implement disciplinary measures against the admissions staff identified in the audit report and communicate these actions to the public as evidence of swift resolution, without conducting a broader review of the admissions policies and procedures. Option D. Focus on implementing stricter financial controls and budget adjustments to offset any potential revenue shortfalls, while deferring a detailed examination of the admissions irregularities until the next fiscal year to avoid disrupting current operations. The correct answer is B. Initiate an immediate, independent review of the admissions process and the specific cases highlighted by the audit, engaging external expertise if necessary, to determine the extent of any deviations and recommend corrective actions, while temporarily suspending any admissions decisions directly implicated until the review is complete. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's immediate financial needs with its long-term ethical obligations and regulatory compliance. The audit findings highlight a potential conflict between revenue generation and the integrity of academic admissions, necessitating careful judgment to uphold the university's reputation and adhere to its governing principles. The correct approach involves a thorough, independent investigation into the alleged irregularities, prioritizing transparency and fairness. This aligns with the core principles of good governance and ethical conduct expected of educational institutions. Specifically, it requires establishing a clear process for reviewing the audit findings, engaging relevant stakeholders, such as the admissions committee and legal counsel, and making decisions based on objective evidence rather than external pressures. This approach upholds the university's commitment to academic integrity and its responsibility to its students and the wider community, ensuring that admissions are based on merit and adherence to established criteria, as implicitly mandated by the university's charter and general principles of educational accreditation. An approach that prioritizes immediate financial recovery by downplaying or ignoring the audit findings would be ethically unsound and potentially violate regulatory expectations for institutional integrity. This would involve a failure to address potential misconduct and could lead to a loss of public trust and damage to the university's accreditation status. An approach that focuses solely on disciplinary action against individuals without a comprehensive review of the admissions process itself would be incomplete. While accountability is important, it does not address systemic issues that may have contributed to the irregularities, thus failing to prevent future occurrences and undermining the long-term health of the institution. An approach that seeks to resolve the issue through public relations efforts without a substantive internal investigation would be a superficial response. This would prioritize image management over addressing the root causes of the problem, potentially misleading stakeholders and failing to meet ethical and regulatory standards for accountability and due diligence. Professionals should approach such situations by first understanding the scope and implications of the audit findings. They should then consult relevant university policies, ethical guidelines, and any applicable regulatory frameworks governing higher education admissions. A structured decision-making process would involve 1. Forming an independent review committee. 2. Gathering all relevant documentation and evidence. 3. Interviewing affected parties. 4. Assessing the findings against established policies and ethical standards. And 5. Recommending a course of action that prioritizes integrity, fairness, and long-term institutional health. Question 16. The efficiency study reveals significant potential cost saving through the consolidation of student support services and a reduction in faculty-to-student ratios in certain departments. The university administration is considering immediate implementation to address budget shortfalls. Which of the following represents the most professionally responsible course of action for the university's leadership? Option A. Commission a new, independent study to reevaluate the university's financial standing and operational efficiency, effectively delaying any decisions based on the current study. Option B. Establish a multidisciplinary committee comprising academic staff, student representatives, and administrative personnel to thoroughly review the study's findings, assess potential impacts on student welfare and academic quality, and propose alternative strategies for achieving efficiency while safeguarding educational standards. Option C. Prioritize the implementation of measures that yield the highest immediate financial returns, with a secondary consideration for any potential impact on student services. Option D. Immediately implement all proposed cost-saving measures as outlined in the efficiency study to address the budget shortfalls promptly and demonstrate fiscal responsibility to stakeholders. The correct answer is B. Establish a multidisciplinary committee comprising academic staff, student representatives, and administrative personnel to thoroughly review the study's findings, assess potential impacts on student welfare and academic quality, and propose alternative strategies for achieving efficiency while safeguarding educational standards. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because the university's administration is prioritizing immediate cost savings over the long-term implications for student welfare and academic integrity, potentially conflicting with the ethical obligations of educational institutions. The core tension lies between financial expediency and the duty of care owed to students and the quality of education provided. Careful judgment is required to balance these competing interests. The correct approach involves a comprehensive review of the efficiency study's findings by a multidisciplinary committee, including academic staff, student representatives, and administrative personnel. This committee would assess the study's methodology, identify potential impacts on student learning and support services, and propose alternative solutions that mitigate negative consequences while still pursuing efficiency. This aligns with the ethical principles of responsible governance and the commitment to providing a high-quality educational experience, which are implicitly expected of an institution like Alzahra University, even if not explicitly codified in a specific entrance exam regulation. The focus is on a balanced, stakeholder-informed decision-making process that upholds the university's mission. An approach that immediately implements all cost-saving measures without further consultation or impact assessment is professionally unacceptable. This would represent a failure to exercise due diligence and a disregard for the potential adverse effects on students' academic progress and overall university experience. Such an action could be seen as a breach of the implicit trust placed in the university to act in the best interests of its student body. Another incorrect approach would be to dismiss the efficiency study entirely without a thorough review. While student welfare is paramount, ignoring potential inefficiencies could lead to resource misallocation and hinder the university's ability to invest in critical areas, ultimately impacting the quality of education. This approach fails to acknowledge the need for responsible financial management. Finally, an approach that focuses solely on the financial benefits without considering the qualitative impact on education or student support services is also flawed. This demonstrates a narrow perspective that prioritizes financial metrics over the core purpose of the university. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Understanding the full scope of the issue and its potential impacts. 2. Gathering diverse perspectives from all relevant stakeholders. 3. Conducting a thorough analysis of proposed solutions, considering both quantitative and qualitative factors. 4. Prioritizing decisions that align with the institution's mission and ethical obligations. 5. Implementing changes in a phased and monitored manner to allow for adjustments. Question 17. Governance review demonstrates that Alzahra University faces significant financial pressures that may necessitate adjustments to program offerings and resource allocation. A proposed strategy suggests streamlining academic departments by merging those with overlapping specializations to reduce administrative overhead and optimize faculty utilization. This approach, while financially prudent, could impact faculty research opportunities and student course selection diversity. Considering the university's commitment to academic excellence and stakeholder well-being, which of the following responses to the governance review's findings is most professionally sound? Option A. Prioritize the financial objectives by implementing the departmental mergers without further consultation, assuming that the benefits of cost reduction will ultimately serve the university's long-term interests. Option B. Initiate a series of open forums and working groups involving faculty, students, and administrative staff to collaboratively explore alternative cost-saving measures and assess the potential impacts of proposed departmental mergers, seeking consensus on a revised strategy that balances financial sustainability with academic quality. Option C. Immediately proceed with the proposed departmental mergers as outlined in the initial strategy, focusing on the financial efficiencies gained and communicating the changes to stakeholders after implementation. Option D. Commission an external consultancy to conduct a detailed financial analysis and recommend the most cost-effective departmental restructuring, with minimal input from internal stakeholders to ensure objectivity. The correct answer is B. Initiate a series of open forums and working groups involving faculty, students, and administrative staff to collaboratively explore alternative cost-saving measures and assess the potential impacts of proposed departmental mergers, seeking consensus on a revised strategy that balances financial sustainability with academic quality. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the university's strategic objectives with the ethical obligations to its stakeholders, particularly students and faculty, in the context of academic integrity and resource allocation. The governance review has highlighted potential conflicts between financial sustainability and the quality of education. Careful judgment is required to ensure that decisions made in response to the review uphold the university's mission and values while addressing financial pressures. The correct approach involves a comprehensive stakeholder engagement process that prioritizes transparency and collaborative problem solving. This approach is right because it acknowledges the diverse interests and concerns of all affected parties. By actively involving students, faculty, and administrative staff in discussions about potential changes, the university can foster trust and build consensus. This aligns with ethical principles of fairness and accountability, ensuring that decisions are not made in isolation, but reflect a shared understanding of the challenges and potential solutions. Specifically, it adheres to the principles of good governance that emphasize inclusivity and responsiveness to stakeholder needs, which are implicitly expected in the operational framework of any educational institution. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on cost-cutting measures without consulting relevant stakeholders would be ethically flawed. This failure stems from a disregard for the impact on the quality of education and the student experience, potentially violating implicit commitments to providing a high standard of academic programs. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes short-term financial gains over long-term academic excellence would also be professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a lack of foresight and a potential breach of fiduciary duty to the university's core mission. Furthermore, an approach that involves making unilateral decisions without clear communication or justification would undermine trust and create an environment of uncertainty and dissatisfaction among the university community. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. First, clearly define the problem and its implications for all stakeholders. Second, identify and analyze the interests and concerns of each stakeholder group. Third, explore a range of potential solutions, evaluating them against ethical principles, regulatory requirements, if applicable to university operations, and the university's strategic goals. Fourth, engage in open and transparent communication with stakeholders, seeking their input and feedback. Finally, make a well-reasoned decision, clearly communicating the rationale and the expected outcomes. Question 18. Market research demonstrates that prospective students for the Alzahra University entrance exam are highly influenced by information regarding program strengths and potential career outcomes. A new marketing campaign is being developed to attract top talent. Which of the following approaches best balances promotional goals with ethical responsibilities to potential applicants? Option A. Focus exclusively on the most impressive statistics and success stories, using aspirational language to paint a picture of guaranteed exceptional career paths for all graduates. Option B. Emphasize the unique strengths and innovative aspects of each program, while also acknowledging areas where the university is actively working to enhance resources and faculty development, providing a realistic outlook. Option C. Highlight only the most popular and well-established programs, omitting any mention of newer or less established fields of study to avoid potential applicant uncertainty. Option D. Present a generic overview of university benefits, avoiding specific details about individual programs to maintain broad appeal and minimize the risk of misinterpretation. The correct answer is B. Emphasize the unique strengths and innovative aspects of each program, while also acknowledging areas where the university is actively working to enhance resources and faculty development, providing a realistic outlook. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between a university's desire to attract students and the ethical obligation to provide accurate and unbiased information. The entrance exam context heightens this challenge, as prospective students rely heavily on such information for critical life decisions. Careful judgment is required to balance promotional efforts with transparency and integrity. The correct approach involves a balanced presentation of information, acknowledging both the strengths and areas for development within the university's programs. This aligns with ethical principles of honesty and fairness, ensuring that prospective students receive a realistic overview. Specifically, within the regulatory framework of university admissions and promotional activities, there is an implicit expectation of truthfulness and avoidance of misleading statements. This approach upholds the trust placed in the university by applicants and their families. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on highlighting positive aspects while omitting or downplaying challenges would be ethically problematic. This misrepresents the reality of the student experience and could lead to disappointment or poor academic fit for admitted students. Such an approach could also be seen as a violation of principles of fair advertising and consumer protection, even within the educational sector. Another incorrect approach that exaggerates the benefits or potential outcomes of specific programs without substantiation is also professionally unacceptable. This constitutes misleading advertising and can create unrealistic expectations. Ethically, it breaches the duty of care owed to prospective students by providing them with information that is not grounded in fact. Professionals in university admissions and marketing should employ a decision-making framework that prioritizes accuracy, transparency, and ethical conduct. This involves 1. Thoroughly understanding the university's offerings and limitations. 2. Consulting with relevant academic departments to ensure factual accuracy in program description. 3. Adopting a communication style that is both attractive and truthful, avoiding hyperbole. 4. Considering the perspective of the prospective student and what information is essential for them to make an informed decision. 5. Adhering to any specific university policies or guidelines regarding admissions marketing and public relations. Question 19. Cost-benefit analysis shows that a new AI-powered essay grading system could significantly reduce the administrative burden and associated costs for the Alzahra University entrance exam, but concerns have been raised about its potential impact on the fairness and standardization of essay evaluations. Which approach best aligns with the regulatory framework and ethical guidelines for this entrance exam? Option A. Implement the AI grading system after a thorough review to ensure it meets all established criteria for validity, reliability, and fairness, as stipulated by the Alzahra University entrance exam's regulatory framework, with a plan for human oversight and appeals. Option B. Defer the implementation of the AI grading system indefinitely due to the potential for unforeseen issues, prioritizing the status quo over any potential efficiency gains. Option C. Adopt a hybrid approach where the AI system provides initial scores, but all essays are then manually graded by a larger team of examiners to ensure human judgment prevails. Option D. Proceed with the AI grading system immediately to realize cost savings, assuming that technological advancements inherently improve efficiency and fairness in assessment. The correct answer is A. Implement the AI grading system after a thorough review to ensure it meets all established criteria for validity, reliability, and fairness, as stipulated by the Alzahra University entrance exam's regulatory framework, with a plan for human oversight and appeals. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the potential financial benefits of a new program against its ethical implications and adherence to the Alzahra University entrance exam's regulatory framework. The core tension lies in ensuring that any proposed initiative, even one with apparent cost advantages, does not compromise the integrity of the examination process or violate established guidelines for candidate assessment and fairness. Careful judgment is required to identify potential conflicts of interest and to prioritize regulatory compliance and ethical conduct over immediate financial gains. The correct approach involves prioritizing the regulatory framework and ethical considerations above all else. This means thoroughly evaluating the proposed program's alignment with the Alzahra University entrance exam's specific guidelines regarding fairness, transparency, and the validity of assessment methods. Any initiative must demonstrably uphold these principles. The regulatory justification stems from the fundamental requirement of all educational institutions, especially during entrance examinations, to operate within established legal and ethical boundaries. This includes ensuring that assessment methods are unbiased, reliable, and do not create undue advantages or disadvantages for candidates. Ethical justification is rooted in the principle of fairness and the university's responsibility to provide an equitable opportunity for all applicants. An incorrect approach would be to solely focus on the cost-benefit analysis without a rigorous assessment of regulatory compliance. This failure to prioritize the established framework would be a direct violation of the exam's governing principles. Another incorrect approach would be to implement a program that, while seemingly efficient, introduces new forms of bias or compromises the standardization of the examination, thereby undermining its validity. This would be an ethical failure, as it deviates from the commitment to a fair and equitable assessment process. A third incorrect approach would be to overlook potential conflicts of interest that might arise from the proposed program's implementation, especially if it involves external vendors or new technologies without proper vetting against the exam's strict requirements. This would be both a regulatory and ethical lapse, as it could lead to compromised data security or unfair practices. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a multifaceted evaluation. First, clearly identify all relevant regulations and ethical guidelines pertaining to the Alzahra University entrance exam. Second, conduct a comprehensive risk assessment, considering potential regulatory breaches, ethical compromises, and reputational damage. Third, engage relevant stakeholders, including academic committees and legal counsel, to review the proposal. Finally, make a decision that demonstrably prioritizes regulatory compliance and ethical integrity, even if it means foregoing a potentially cost-saving initiative. Question 20. The risk matrix shows a moderate likelihood of a significant operational disruption due to outdated IT infrastructure, which could impact the timely processing of applicant data for the Alzahra University entrance exam. Management is pushing for a quick resolution to avoid delays in admissions, suggesting a temporary workaround that defers a full system upgrade. Considering the regulatory framework governing university admissions and data handling, which of the following stakeholder perspectives should be prioritized in addressing this risk? Option A. Prioritize the perspective of the finance department by seeking the most cost-effective solution, even if it involves a temporary measure that carries a higher residual risk. Option B. Prioritize the perspective of the admissions committee by focusing on the immediate processing capacity to meet the university's enrollment targets for the upcoming academic year. Option C. Prioritize the perspective of the IT department by implementing the suggested temporary workaround to quickly address the immediate operational need and avoid the perceived burden of a full system upgrade. Option D. Prioritize the perspective of prospective students by ensuring the integrity and security of their application data and the fairness of the admissions process, even if it means a slight delay in the immediate resolution of the IT infrastructure issue. The correct answer is D. Prioritize the perspective of prospective students by ensuring the integrity and security of their application data and the fairness of the admissions process, even if it means a slight delay in the immediate resolution of the IT infrastructure issue. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between immediate financial pressures and the long-term ethical and regulatory obligations of a financial institution. The pressure to meet performance targets can tempt individuals to overlook or downplay risks, potentially leading to non-compliance with regulatory frameworks. Careful judgment is required to balance stakeholder interests, ensuring that short-term gains do not compromise the integrity of the institution or its adherence to the Alzahra University entrance exam's specified regulatory framework. The correct approach involves a thorough and objective assessment of the identified risks, prioritizing the institution's commitment to regulatory compliance and ethical conduct over immediate financial expediency. This approach aligns with the core principles of responsible financial management, emphasizing transparency, accountability, and the protection of all stakeholders, including the university and its prospective students. Adhering to the specified regulatory framework means proactively identifying, assessing, and mitigating risks in a manner that is consistent with the spirit and letter of the law, thereby safeguarding the institution's reputation and operational integrity. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on immediate cost reduction without a comprehensive risk assessment fails to acknowledge the potential for significant future liabilities and reputational damage. This overlooks the regulatory requirement for robust risk management systems and could be interpreted as a breach of duty of care. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes the perception of success over actual risk mitigation neglects the ethical imperative of honesty and transparency with stakeholders. This can lead to misleading reporting and a failure to address underlying issues, ultimately undermining trust and potentially violating regulatory disclosure requirements. A third incorrect approach that seeks to delay or obscure the reporting of identified risks, even if they are deemed minor at the time, is a direct contravention of regulatory expectations for timely and accurate risk communication. This can prevent timely intervention and exacerbate potential problems, leading to more severe consequences. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the relevant regulatory requirements and ethical principles. This involves systematically identifying all potential risks, assessing their likelihood and impact, and developing appropriate mitigation strategies. When faced with conflicting pressures, professionals must prioritize adherence to regulations and ethical standards, seeking guidance from senior management or compliance officers when necessary. The ultimate goal is to make decisions that are not only financially sound, but also ethically defensible and compliant with all applicable laws and guidelines.